Hello everyone, we're here with Dylan Cuthbert, or Dylan because he doesn't like to be called with his last name, and the director of Tomorrow's Children. And we're going to ask him a couple of questions about his game, which just won our Best Indie Award here at Tokyo Game Show. So congratulations, Dylan.
Thank you.
And so let's start immediately with the first question, which is a question I wanted to ask you for quite a while because your position is a little unique. Yeah. There are a lot of Western developers that work in Japan, but there are many that actually lead a studio in Japan.
Yeah.
So how is it to lead a studio as a Western developer in Japan?
I find it very easy actually. The Japanese are very welcoming, so when I thought I was going to set up the company and stuff, I just asked around and everyone helped out and helped with the paperwork, and then running the studio itself, everyone's quite surprised to have a gaijin running a company, and it kind of opens a few doors here and there because they want to know more about like why you're there, why how did you think about even starting a company here, and everything just seems to go pretty well,
So I played a little bit the new build of the Tomorrow's Children. It looks very much improved. Could you tell us what changed since the last alpha? It was an alpha, right? It wasn't beta. No. Since the alpha, can you tell us what was improved in terms of visuals and gameplay?
Well, obviously we improved the visuals continuously, so obviously they're a lot better now as well. But what we did is we listened to what people were saying and what we were thinking during the alpha test when we actually got a lot of players in and were playing the game, and we found that people wanted a more of a continuous experience, and so we sort of we changed around a few bits in the game to allow the stage to be continuous. So like you come into the same stage every day and you play with like the same people every day, and you kind of play over almost like an MMORPG kind of thing. And we found that really added to a lot of the game. And on top of that, we increased all the sandbox capabilities of the game. So we had, for example, now you can create the town completely by yourselves. You create the buildings and you move them around, you can paint them, and then do stuff like that. So all in all, it's become a lot more of a open experience.
Okay, so what can we expect from the next beta? Is it going to be this build, or is it going to be another new build? They're going to improve it further?
The beta version will be basically this build. So this is like the latest build. So this is, like hot off the presses kind of thing. And the beta version is going to be, it will have probably the things. Well, actually, we don't know. It might just be the same build. We're with a few bits tuned.
Your game and No Man's Sky are pretty much the poster boys of the indie community with PlayStation. Can you tell us a little bit about the relationship you have with Sony, how it started, how it developed, and what kind of support are you getting from them?
Okay, well, I worked at Sony, way back in the day, when I was in my 20s. And since then, I've always had a good relationship with Sony, and I really enjoy working with the people there. I mean, it's always the same people that I worked with in 1996. So these people are still there, and basically they've been very hands off. So I went to them and I told them I wanted to make a game which is big and different and something that they haven't seen before, and they said, "Well, go ahead. Let's try and do it. Let's collaborate and try and make something that's a bit different." And I think the No Man's Sky people did the same. They made a demo and it was like out there and no one had really seen anything like it before. So it's a similar thing.
So of course, one of the best thing of your games, besides the gameplay, which is really interesting, is the lighting. The lighting is absolutely impressive. It really looks like real objects. Even if they're not realistic characters, they look like real dolls in real life. Could you tell us a little bit about this lighting technology, and what have you done to make it look this realistic?
Well, we've invented our own kind of lighting technology. I mean, it's based on a few papers that were kind of flying about a bit, but for non-real-time applications. And then we modified them to make them real-time and to optimize it to work. And it's called voxel cone tracing. And what it is, it's like a voxel representation of the lights and then we kind of bounce the light through this representation and look it up using using cone ray tracing or cone tracing. And what this does is it lets us have a kind of Pixar kind of look to the game, because we have lots of bounces of light everywhere. So sometimes we can't get the same level of detail as Pixar because they have like days to render out their frames, but we can actually get a very nice like pre-rendered look from this technology. And we've done a paper at SIGGRAPH, and there was a talk at GDC where we actually go into a lot of details into this lighting, about this lighting.
So be honest. How many frames per second did it run when you first started with the technology?
Well, initially we did our experiments on the PC, and it ran about probably 10 FPS. Yeah. No, it wasn't a super powerful one, but I mean it was a fairly good one, but nothing. I mean it's like 3 or 4 years ago. But we knew we were always going to go to PS4 anyway, so it was only the experiments, you know, like testing what we could do. When we brought it to the PS4, we started putting it onto the Async compute pipeline, and that really just pushed the frame rate up, and we got it up. For a little while, it was running at 20 FPS, which was worrying, but we got there at the end. We got to 30 in the end.
30.
Yeah.
So it's 30 stable now.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, you're probably one of the biggest experts about the Async compute of the PS4. So can you tell us a little bit about this, like, secret weapon the PS4 has, the Async compute on the GPU? So you can tell us how it works, and how much potential do you think it still has unlocked for the future?
Well, it's not unique to the PS4, obviously. High-end PC cards have the same ability, but the difference that the PS4 has is that you get access to it at a very low level, which means you can parcel off work onto it, and you can parcel off stuff that would have been done on the CPU up until now. You can pass it onto the GPU. So you're not only doing graphics on the GPU, you're doing like the preparation of the graphics on the GPU, stuff that up until now would have been done on the CPU. And then we have really good tools to optimize the what they call wavefronts on this async compute pipeline. And the async part means that it isn't synchronized to a frame. So you can set things running, and then they'll finish, say, you know, a few seconds later even. So you can do things like that, which you could never really do on GPUs until now, not really.
Okay, so a indie developer like you, which is kind of in the middle, because your game doesn't look very much like an indie game. Right. As long as there are a lot of indie games that looks great, but it still has a lot of publisher support from Sony and all. How does it? What kind of AAA game do you play and do you like?
Oh, okay. I'm a big fan of well, the Dark Souls series and Bloodborne.
Who is it?
Yeah, exactly. And games like Fallout. And recently, I'm trying to think what. Recently, I've been too busy on this to actually play many recent games. But stuff like BioShock as well, I like. You know, the sort of the reinvented timeline, which we have a bit of in this as well, because we kind of reinvent the timeline. So you're 100 years in the future, and in a weird neo-Soviet world, you know. So games like that, games that would take you a bit out of reality and into a bit of fantasy. And Uncharted, I really like as well, actually. So.
What about indie games? Do you play other indie games, and do you like other indie games? Which one are your favorite?
Favorite names, Papers, Please, from last year. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. I got a chance to speak to Lucas Pope this week, and that was really interesting. I went a bit fanboy on him. Recently, what's the title's really long. Super Time Force Ultra? Is that the name? Yeah, you know, I remember the order of the words. You know, I can remember the words, but not the order of them. I really enjoyed that, and I like I like games with that kind of gimmick. So like Braid as well. Like we're back in the day, games like Braid. Those kind of things I really enjoy. Anything with like some interesting gimmick. And if you look at the Pixel Junk games we made as well, they always have some sort of like weird gimmick, you know, that we've tried to put in there.
So Sony finally changed the name of Morpheus. Oh, yeah. I like Morpheus a little bit more, actually, but that's okay. This is easier to sell, probably.
Yeah.
But yes. But So this game looks like something that would look really well, look really nice on Morpheus. Even if I don't know the advanced graphics it has and the frame rate, you probably have to strip a little bit. But do you think you're gonna work on PlayStation VR in the future?
It's definitely something I want to look into. So I'm really interested in PlayStation VR, as it's called now. And I'm really interested in seeing what other people have been doing, like the horror stuff. You know, it looks a bit scary to me, but I still want to try it out. And I definitely want to try out like Summer Lesson, for example, some of the stranger, more esoteric games. You know, the weirder experiences. And if I'm going to do a PlayStation VR title, I want to try something like that as well. As also maybe trying to bring something a bit pixel junky to it, maybe. But we haven't started anything yet, but I definitely want to experiment.
Last question, which is more, can you give a message to those that are a little bit on the fence about the Tomorrow's Children, because maybe they don't yet know what you have to do with it. Yeah. Because you know it's some people still are wondering. So can you give them a message to like attract them to your game?
Okay. That's a good question. In one sentence. In one sentence.
All the sentences you want. I have nothing but time.
I think okay. So I think the kind of people who are going to really enjoy this game are people who like movies like Brazil, you know, sort of Terry Gilliam, and like Clockwork Orange, that sort of dystopic kind of future. And on top of that, we've got a bit of Animal Crossing in there as well. So people who like Animal Crossing, you know, they'll really kind of get into the game, and you'll definitely see some sort of similarities. But it's not in the same genre as that even. So it has its own genre. So people who like something that's a bit different, like a completely different world that they can immerse themselves in. And when they join the game, I expect everybody to work very hard. The game is about working for the better good of the state.
Don't do work enough in real life.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Basically, work hard for the state and build the town and see what, you know, just enjoy yourself. And the important thing is that we don't really guide the player too strongly, so you can decide really what you want to do. And what I'm looking forward to is seeing what everybody does, because we play the game in our particular way, but then we see some people playing it today and they're just doing crazy stuff, and that's what I want to see more of that. So
did anyone make a big tower yet?
Not yet, but they were in the alpha test, so I'm hoping we'll see something at some point. I saw a big staircase, like a staircase to the heaven, like to heaven kind of thing. So they're getting creative for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Can't wait to play the game.
Thank you. Thank you very much.